The UK's immigration crisis greatly intensified this week. Suella Braverman is facing legal action over the conditions at the Manston Migrant Centre and sparked outrage after referring to the influx of illegal immigrants as an invasion. Meanwhile, Robert Jenrick defended the government by pointing out that the large number of people crossing the channel makes processing them difficult. As if all that wasn't enough, the government faced a further embarrassment after it emerged that two groups from the migrant centre in Kent had been left stranded in London after a misunderstanding. My next guest is a former Border Force chief who says our asylum system is the worst he's ever known it, and he has some suggestions on how to fix it. So joining me now is Kevin Saunders. Kevin, thank you very much for giving us your time today. You've got lots of experience in this area, being a man on the ground for a number of years. What should the government do to solve this crisis?
Good afternoon. Well, I've suggested that they should re-look at an idea that was raised a couple of years ago by a retired naval gentleman who suggested sticking a cruise liner in international waters in the middle of the channel and taking everybody that comes across the channel directly to the cruise liner and doing the initial sifting, if you like, on the cruise liner. If it's in international waters, if it's not British flagged, then they can't claim asylum.
It sounds similar to what they do in Australia, am I right?
It's not dissimilar. And of course, even though lots of people will say the Australian system completely failed, it didn't. It stopped illegal migration into Australia. So
almost immediately.
It certainly stopped it, yes.
So it stops them actually arriving in the country. Do you agree with Suella Braverman's use of the word invasion?
I think it was a little bit of a harsh word to use. However, on the other side, ask the people of Dover what they think. Because I was down in Dover week before last, and that's exactly the type of language that the locals there were using.
That's an interesting point, because the people complaining about the word are people who don't live in Kent, aren't they? If an invasion is an incursion of people that are unwanted at the time, that does seem quite accurate, if not a bit incendiary. Do you think Suella Braverman...
Certainly incendiary, I would agree with you there, yes.
Yeah. Do you think the conditions at Manston are a problem, or is this hyperbole?
No, I mean, I do have some sympathy for both sides. I mean, Manston was set up originally to be basically a sifting station whereby you would get the people there for a few hours and then move them on. All sorts of problems, particularly last weekend when we had the firebomb attack at Manston, and the firebomb attack at Dover, which meant that 700 people had to be transferred to Manston straight away. So that produced a problem. I think they've got over the problem now because they're now moving people through much, much quicker. And I also understand that the government tend to extend Manston and actually put some proper accommodation in there.
People are cherry-picking Manston as a bad example, but we understand it costs £150 per night per refugee, up to about £7 million a day for the British taxpayer, doesn't it? So, the conditions can't be all that bad on the whole. Now, do you think the crisis has anything to do with us leaving the EU?
Nothing at all. No. We hear a lot of nonsense talked about this.
We do.
Particularly the Remainers saying this didn't happen under Brexit, which is absolute rubbish, because it did. We've never really been able to remove people who have arrived as illegal migrants because they destroy their documents. And countries will not accept people back if there's no documentation. If they did, we wouldn't have had 100,000 people here in 2001 when the French refused to take everybody back.
Well, that was the former border chief, Kevin Saunders. Thank you, Kevin. Really good to get insightful knowledge from someone who's been on the ground.